Hey everybody, how's it going? In this video, we are going to be talking about my league and my league's team rankings. Um, we just had our draft the other night, and all of these rankings are based on projections. So I'm going to be going over each team individually, and I'm going to be talking about each category and how well they fared in each category. So first off, we're talking about the first overall pick, which was by Adam. Now his team consists of the Greek Freak, Leonard, Ayton, Holiday, Drummond, Schroeder, Covington, Adams, Williams, Bledsoe, Obi Toppin, Rozier, Fournier, and Kendrick Nunn. Now I do feel like his best pick was Andre Drummond, who fell to him in the 5th round because he complements the Greek Freak so well. Now, for me, I think his biggest questionable pick had to have been Lou Williams. I also want to say Kawhi Leonard was pretty questionable too, at least from my perspective. A lot of people are high on Kawhi Leonard, and I get it. Per game basis, he's one of the best. But in this scenario, uh, Kawhi's percentages are very good. His free throw percentage is very good. But the Greek Freak, you basically punted that away. And with Drummond, you most definitely punted that away. So to take Leonard at the 2nd round spot, I feel like there could have been a better player to pick. But he got lucky with Drummond in the 5th round. And I do believe for Lou Williams, he only has value in points and free throws. Give you a couple threes, some decent rebounds, but mainly it's points and free throws. And so to take away free throw percentage, Lou Williams is basically just taking up a roster spot. Now, if you look at the ESPN projections, Adams' team is very strong in steals, rebounds, field goal percentage, and three-pointers made. He's also strong in points. He's 4th in points, and there's 2 teams that are way, way, way higher than everyone else. So he's going to beat a lot of teams in points. So maybe Lou Williams isn't um, so much of a waste after all. We'll see. But I do believe it's a weakness, in my opinion. Right as of right now, it's a weakness. So I talked about his strengths a little bit. He also supported Giannis very, very nicely with 2 strong centers early in the draft in Ayton and Drummond. They're both going to have very, very, very good free field goal percentages, which is going to only enhance the Greek Freak's value and input. And they're all going to kill in rebounds. And not surprisingly, Adam does have the best rebounding team at 94.8. He also has the best, and this isn't a surprise either with the Greek Freak, Holiday, Drummond, Schroeder, Covington, and I think that's it. And it's not a surprise with those players that he is also number 1 in steals, and he's number 2 in field goal percentage. So his strengths are really strong. It's gonna be interesting to see how it all blends together because me personally, even though the projections are saying Adam had a very strong draft, I'm not sold on a lot of these players. I'm not sold on Schroeder at all. I don't even know if he's going to start for the Lakers. Maybe someone else out there knows. I'm not sold on it. And LeBron's going to be dominating the ball most of the time even when Schroeder is on the floor. Eric Bledsoe is in no man's land right now. I believe he's on the Pelicans, who have no use for him. I don't think they're going to utilize him, and I don't even know if he's going to be seeing much playing time. He is likely going to be traded at some point in the season for a better opportunity, more playing time elsewhere, but until then, he is dead in the water in New Orleans. Obi Toppin, he's just a rookie under Coach Thibodeau. I know everyone's overreacting on his first preseason game. Maybe he holds up during the season. We'll see. But Thibodeau plus rookie equals disaster. No thank you for me. Rozier's in a good place. That was a good pickup as well as Andre Drummond. as he should be starting all year round for Charlotte. And let's see. To go back to Adams' weaknesses, it's definitely free throw percentage and turnovers. For turnovers, it's surprising how high his turnover rate is, considering you have the Greek Freak and Kawhi. Your first two picks don't really turn the ball over much. So it is surprising that he was the second highest next to my team, of course, in that regard. But that's all right. It's okay to be bad at turnovers. So the little tidbit I have is Kawhi and Lou Williams just do not fit this team. Maybe Kawhi does more so than Lou Williams, but Lou Williams, I would advise Adam to trade out. And if anyone is looking to pick up a player that gives you good free throws and good points in my league, Lou Williams on Adam's team is the perfect player to try and acquire. Now, I believe I tried to do something fun in my league, and in years past, I would make up the whole schedule, but I didn't this year. I just simply don't have that time. And I used to do like a rivalry week. So it's not going to be a rivalry week this year. It's just going to be when they play, and I'm going to try and bring it up on my weekly MyLeague videos. And I think Seeper is the perfect team for Adam to rival. And one of the reasons that the first thing that comes to my mind is so Adam had the first pick, well, Seeper had the last pick. And we'll get to his team in a while, but I think those two are going to be very interesting when they play each other. Last but not least, I am going over Cornerstones. Now, Cornerstones, the way I want to explain Cornerstones is they are valuable to this team. So they provide an immense amount of value under this team. And those players are the Greek Freak, DeAndre Ayton, Andre Drummond, Covington, and Steven Adams. I believe all of them are going to blend and complement one another very nicely. I also think if Obi Toppin plays like he did last night in the first preseason game, that he will be included in future Cornerstone, like for Adam's Cornerstones list in the future. Now moving on to the second overall pick, which is Mike's team. I think now this is Mike's team, but he's not the most informed fantasy basketball player, so he had his buddy Ryan help him out. So Ryan drafted Mike's team, and Ryan, I think, did a very good job at drafting this team. So it goes as follows: Doncic, Embiid, Williamson, Fox, McCollum, Warren, Aldridge, Randall, Murray, Bogdanovic, Sexton, Hachimura, Zubac, and Gordon. So I believe, let's see, Mike's best pick, or Ryan's best pick, I should say, was 82nd overall by DeJounte Murray. I think he fell a little bit, and I think that was very good value. If he has a breakout season, that is immense value. I also like the Embiid pick. Embiid fell to him at 19, so that was strong. It's kind of funny. I look at this team, and Embiid's just the best free throw shooter, which I just found it funny that the center is the best free throw shooter on your team. And I think that's kind of why he struggles at free throws, which is why he's only ranked 7th out of 10 teams. But overall, I think he had a deep draft. And his only questionable pick is Julius Randle, because I just don't know what to expect out of him. I have no idea. Moving on to his team strengths. They are points, which he's first in, rebounds, which he's third in, and field goal percentage, which he's fourth in. Now, he has a lot of weaknesses, unfortunately, based on projections, which include three-pointers, blocks, steals, turnovers, and assists. Like, for me, Do you ever just look at a team and you feel like there's something missing? I feel like that is Mike's team right now. I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something not there. But maybe it'll be made up um, and maybe it can turn into a strength in regards of his mid and later rounds. I feel like he has a lot of high upside value in those picks, which include Murray, which include Bogdanovic, Sexton, Hachimura if he gets a 3-point shot, and Zubac. I feel like all those players can be very strong players uh, going into the season. Let's see. So funny thing is, I do think his rival team is Mark, which is his brother. So I think those two are going to have a lot of fun and a lot of banter going back and forth in basketball this year when they play. And his cornerstones, Mike's cornerstones, include Luca, Zion, Fox, Murray, and Sexton. I think they will all blend together very well. You probably throw in McCollum in that list too. But for me, I think the only player that doesn't have as much value as he would on a separate team is Joel Embiid. He did follow him, and I don't blame Mike for taking him at all. I think that's a no-brainer at 19. I can't believe he fell to 19. But I do think it would be in Mike's best interest to try and move Joel Embiid at some point during the season. Moving on to the third pick, which is Rick's team. His team is as follows: Harden, Abadea, George, Van Vliet, Wood, Hayward, Walker, Whiteside, Delon Wright, Bojan Bogdanovic, Dante, I can't pronounce the last name, I'm not even going to try, Boucher, Washington, and Elfrid Payton. I feel like his best pick was 63rd overall, which was Kemba Walker. I think because he's injured now, he slid a little bit in the draft. But I think he's going to be primed and ready for playoff season, and that's really when you want your players to be at their best. I do believe Kemba is going to have a good year this year when he does come back and once he gets healthy. So I definitely think that was a nice little sleeper for Rick. I also like the Bojan pick, and I do think his question. I also liked. Well, I'll get to that in a sec. So moving into his questionable pick, I do think Bam was the questionable pick in this draft. At 18, that's hard. That's hard, especially when you saw Joel Embiid on the board. Like I just mentioned, Mike took him at 19, so Joel Embiid was still on the board at that point. If you're looking at a big, now I didn't talk to Rick about why he passed over Embiid for Bam. Maybe there's something there. But I do know Rick did say he was looking to get strong value throughout his entire draft. But I don't think the value pick was Bam at that point. And I do think it was Embiid. So I do think that one pick alone hurt him pretty bad. But it's not like Bam's a bad player. And he actually complements Harden very well, because of the vast majority of stats he can bring you. The only thing he's not going to bring you is a significant amount of points, which Harden will bring enough of that to the table. So moving on to Rick's team strengths, they are the defensive categories, surprisingly enough, which are steals and blocks, where he's ranked second at in both categories, and turnovers, where he's only ranked third. So I do think Rick has strong all-around guard play, including Harden, Van Vliet, Hayward, Hayward and Walker. Delon Wright's a question mark, but he's on a new team who should get a lot of minutes. Then you also have Bogdanovic and Dante, who should get a lot of minutes on his respective team as well. So I did think overall that it's a lot of value in his guards, and they could catapult his team to be one of the best teams in the league. But the one thing I do want to say is, in under team weaknesses, I don't think he's supported Harden well, not well enough at least. And the reason I say that is he is only ranked 5th in free throws, 6th in points, 7th in assists, and 8th in points. That boggles my mind because if you think of Harden, you think you're going to have a team with a lot of points, you're going to have a team that shoots a lot of threes, and you're going to have a very strong assist total and a very strong free throw percentage. And Rick has none of those. Instead, it's his best categories are both defensive, and Harden does bring good defensive stats, which is why he's overall I think is the best player, fantasy player coming into this year. But I expected more from Rick after selecting James Harden. I expected a better draft from Rick than the one I got from him. As you can see, he's in the middle of the pack or in the lower tier in a lot of categories. So yeah, and his weaknesses are field goal percentage, which is perfectly understandable with Harden, but then the points and assists, which is something Harden excels in. I expected more from him there in that regard. So I do think Rick's rival team is Skylar's, as I feel like those two are going to match up well against each other, so they should have hard matchups when they do play against one another. And Rick's cornerstones for his team include Harden, Paul George, Van Fleet, Kemba, Hayward, and you could even include possibly Dylan Wright if he performs well and gets a lot of minutes. Bogdanovic, who's going to complement Harden very well, which is why he should be a cornerstone. I should have put Bogdan in, or excuse me, Bojan in, and possibly Dante, who I don't know too much about, and I don't know how much playing time he's going to get with the big three, Milwaukee now, and Drew, Middleton, and Giannis, even though Giannis isn't a guard. All right, moving on to the fourth team, which is Mark's team. He got Anthony Davis at a steal at 4, in my opinion, and Westbrook, Mitchell, Murray, John Collins, Draymond Green, Harrell, Turner, Grant, Porter, Dinwiddie, Thomas Bryant, and Crowder. Now, I think his best pick was actually deep in the draft in Thomas Bryant. I was thinking about taking him several times in the draft, but decided against it because, and the reason why I'm excited for him is because he is going to be working with Russell Westbrook, who loves to pad his stats, and one of the stats Westbrook likes to pad is his assist totals, and he loves the pick and roll game. So I think there's going to be a lot of Westbrook to Bryant fantasy value in that regard. Now, for me, I think his questionable pick came at 64th overall, which is Montrezl Harrell. I don't think he's going to have a good fantasy year this year. He could win a championship, but I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes behind the players that are on the Lakers. The Lakers are stacked at the bigs this year, and I just don't see him coming in and overtaking anyone for their minutes. I also do want to say, let's see. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to move on to team strengths now, which are blocks, which should be a strength with Anthony Davis, right? And John Collins. Same with rebounds. And then turnovers are also a strength. So he had a strong blend at the top of the draft. Yeah, I think he supported Anthony Davis very well with Westbrook, Mitchell, even Jamal Murray, John Collins. And Draymond Green is going to produce very well for him this year, I believe, and Thomas Bryant, which are ironically all of his cornerstones as well. So AD, Westbrook, Mitchell, Collins, Draymond, and Bryant are all cornerstones. You might be able to throw Jamal Murray in there as well, but I would like to see him play first. I want to see if he performs better. So let's see. Now his weaknesses, no surprise, are assists and three-pointers made. And it's not a surprise because he only has one true point guard, and that's Russell Westbrook, and he doesn't shoot threes. So it's no surprise that he's ranked 9th in threes and ranked 9th in assists. Those are basically the categories he's throwing. But he should be good among everything else. He should be able to fight for both percentage categories all year round. He should be in a battle and win most of his rebound matchups. His assists are very bad. Then that's why it's a weakness. And then I would have liked to have seen him get better, a little bit more steals, but still, he's going to be able to compete in steals. All right, moving on to the 5th pick, we have best team, who is my rival team, and I'm his. So moving on to his team, he drafted Curry, Beal, Irving, Middleton, Wall, Valanciunas, Horford, Love, Gallinari, White, Bridges, Clark, Dragic, and Rose. Now, I do think his best pick is Kyrie Irving, and if he stays healthy, we're in a lot of trouble, guys. Out in my league, we're in a lot of trouble. And his questionable pick is John Wall, just because we don't know what Houston's going to do. Especially with the whole Harden situation, we don't know if Houston's going to try and move off Wall, trade Wall if they can, or try and just pay him and cut him and waive him. Not only that, we don't particularly know. Like we heard from the Wizards GM about John Wall how they were planning on limiting his minutes and they were going to not play him in back-to-backs, but we have no idea how Houston's going to utilize John Wall. So to use a fifth-round draft pick on John Wall, you have to feel confident that he's going to be playing a lot, and he's not going to miss back-to-backs. So moving on to team strengths, he has free throw percentage, three-pointers, and points. And he has all that because he's strong at the point guard position with Curry, Irving, John Wall. And I will say John Wall did look pretty good in his first preseason game. He looked formidable. He had 14 points, 9 assists, shot the ball well, got to the rim well. He did look very good. And let's see, he also has Kobe White, who he is a potential breakout player this year. To round it out, he also has Dragic, who I don't know how the Heat are going to utilize him, but he very well may start. He's probably going to start and put up decent numbers, so picking him in the 13th round is not a bad way to go. And Derrick Rose, who isn't going to be starting for Detroit, but if Hayes struggles like he did in his first preseason game, Rose may take over the starting role again. I don't think he will. I think Detroit's going to roll with Hayes, but we'll see what happens. Now, best team's weaknesses are blocks, steals, and field goal percentage. So those defensive categories he really got hurt on by taking all these point guards and then not selecting a defensive stopper when he didn't take a point guard. And he's also very weak in the center position. We only get 3 per, and his best is Valanciunas, and his only is Valanciunas. Now he does have Kevin Love, who's either or. He does have Al Horford, who's either or, and same thing with Brandon Clark, but they are all labeled as power forwards. So specifically at the center position, he may need to try and pick up one during the season at some point, whether it's a trade or off the waiver wire. And best cornerstones are Curry, Beal, Irving, Middleton, Kobe White, and possibly John Wall if he stays healthy. And depending on what happens with Dragic, if he plays really well, and Derrick Rose, they can be added at a later time. But overall, I personally think this is going to be the hardest team for me to play against this year. And coming into the season, I do believe he may have the best overall team heading into the season. I think he drafted very well. Next up is the 6th pick, which is Jose's team. He drafted LeBron, Shea, Ingram, Sabonis, Porter Jr., Lonzo Ball, Anunoby, LeVert, Capella, Griffin, Bridges, Plumlee, Curry, and Ingles. Now, I think his best pick was in the 4th round in Sabonis. I think he's a very underrated fantasy player. He gives you a high to mid-teen point, mid to high in terms of, what am I trying to say? He gives you good points, like the 17, 18 amount there in that range. Gives you a boatload of rebounds, like 12 a game. And then he also gives you like 4 or 5 assists a game. So he's a strong player to have. And the reason why his best pick is because I believe he blends in with LeBron James very well and Shea very well as well. So I believe Jose's questionable pick has to be the 66th overall pick, which is OG. I just said it a minute ago. OG. OG is the pick. Oh my God, Anunoby. I know how to say it. I don't know. Every time I think about saying it, I don't know, there's brain farts everywhere. Anyway, I know a lot of people were targeting him this year, myself included, but not at the seventh round. I was thinking more like along the lines of eighth round if you really believe in him, but more along the lines of ninth at the earliest, 10th round, somewhere in there. So I talked to Jose after the draft, and he truly believes in him. So he went out of his way. He reached for him. So by selecting him that high, you're saying you have to believe that OG is going to be a top 60 player this year, which means he's going to be a breakout player of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see if he is, or if you end up on waiver wires before January is out. I think it's going to be the latter, but we will see. So I do think, I do think Jose's strengths include field goal percentage, rebounds, and assists, which it should with LeBron. Those are what he's strong in. And he has strong all-around players. And what I mean by that is like LeBron James gives you good amount of points, good amount of assists, good amount of rebounds. It's like it's very well spread out, but he's not the only one. Shea does it. Ingram does it. Sabonis does it. Michael Porter Jr. is probably going to do it. Lonzo does it. And you could include Blake on that list. And that probably rounds it out. So his team weaknesses include, and by no surprise, are free throw percentage, steals, and points. I'm kind of surprised with the points. That may not be a weakness, but based on the projections it is, I'm not so sold on that low amount of points. But I guess we're going to see what happens. And I do think another one of his weaknesses was that he attacked the small forward position too much too early. He selected Brandon Ingram, Michael Porter Jr., Anunoby, and Chris LeVert in the first 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in the first 8 rounds. I think that's too many. That's 4 in the first 8. That's half your team. And I think that's too many. We're going to see how it works out, but I do think that's why he's ranked very low in a lot of categories that he probably shouldn't be ranked low in. Overall, I do think, let's see, I think his rival is going to be his buddy Jason. And I think he's our next pick, actually. So I think those two had a lot of the same opportunities to select a lot of the same players. And I think that's why they're going to be rivals this year. And last but not least, I think Jose's team's cornerstones include LeBron, Shea, Porter, Sabonis, and Blake Griffin. And I don't see anyone else added on to that. I'm not big on it, Brandon Ingram this year. I think he's going to be a solid player, especially in the third round. I have no problem with that. But for a cornerstone, I don't know if he's going to. I don't think he's going to produce the way he did last year with Zion healthy and ready to go. All right, moving on to the 7th overall pick. Like I just said, it's Jason's team, and his team goes as follows: the Joker, Simmons, Siakam, Gobert, Brogdon, Chris Paul, Graham, Richardson, Gordon, Fultz, Bagley, Bertans, Halliburton, and Robinson. Now, I think his best pick was a pick that fell to him in the 3rd round, 27th overall, Pascal Siakam. Man, I can't stress this enough. He's a much better player than a 3rd rounder. So he got a big time steal. I was hoping Siakam fell to me in the 3rd round. I would have swiped him right up. He's just an awesome player to have. He's just not the sexy pick. No one wants to watch Toronto, so I get it. I understand. But if you want to win games, you select Siakam, and you select Siakam early, or a lot earlier than that. So I do think Jason's team's questionable pick had to have been Ben Simmons. I know he technically blends in well with Jokic, but the reason why the Joker is so valuable is because he does everything well, and those percentages are invaluable in each category leagues, which is what this is. So to take Ben Simmons and to kind of punt on the free throws a bit after your 2nd round pick, when there could have been different players you could have selected, like Shea, Bradley Beal, Westbrook, Bam, Embiid, or Kawhi Leonard, I do think there is better value over Ben Simmons. All right, so or at least I shouldn't say better value. There was better compliments to Jokic in the second round over Ben Simmons. But I get why he took him. But I also personally don't feel like that was the right move. So moving on to his team strengths. He only is projected to have assists as strengths. So we're going to see how that works out. And it's kind of unfortunate because in his first 3 picks, they're very well-rounded players. So I don't know what happened to him in the rest of the draft on why assists are his only projected strength. Excuse me. I will say another one of his strengths, though, is he had a strong late draft potential list. What I mean by that is, in the 10th round, he took Fultz, 11th round, Bagley, 12th round, Bertans, and 13th round, Halliburton, and hell, even his last pick, Duncan Robinson. All, maybe not so much Robinson and Bertans, but specifically Fultz, Bagley, and Halliburton, all young players, all kind of unproven players, with Fultz and Bagley specifically injury-riddled past. If they get their shit together, those 2 players can have breakout seasons. So he has a lot of potential in his late draft picks. But going into his weaknesses, which include turnovers, points, and free throw percentage, those should not have been his weaknesses. His turnovers should not have been his weaknesses, and his free throw percentage should not have been a weakness with Jokic as your first pick. Yeah, overall, I just don't feel like he supported Jokic's strengths well enough. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's projected to only have a strong assist category and no other strong categories. Again, I get Ben Simmons is like a triple-double machine, and that's the same as Jokic. But the percentages, Jason's probably okay with it. I personally didn't like that route, and I personally wouldn't go that route. And I was looking further deeper into his team. Even Gobert would have been fine on his team if he was the only poor free throw shooter, as his volume isn't very high. But to pair him with Simmons together per game, that's like 8.5 or 9 free throws a game. And if you're only going to make like 4 out of 9 a game, if you're gonna that's like 15 to 20 free throw misses a week, and that's going to drastically kill your free throw percentage. So Jason's in quite of a bind because Jokic, Siakam, and Brogdon work really well together. You could even throw Chris Paul into that category, and probably even Devontae Graham outside of his really, really, really awful field goal percentage. But I just don't like the blend with Ben Simmons and Gobert. I understand what he was trying to go for. I just don't think it's as strong of a blend as Jason would have liked. Now, I did talk to Jason after the draft, and he did say he was trying to do different things. It just didn't work out, and this is how his team fell. So sometimes that's just the way it goes in drafts. Moving on to his rival team, which I talked about, was the most recent pick, Jose's team. So those two drafted neck and neck together, and both of them are projected to have 2 of the weaker teams in the draft in the league this year. So we're going to see how that pans out, but I do think those 2 are going to have strong matchups against one another. And finally, Jason's cornerstones include Jokic, Siakam, Brogdon, Bagley, Bertans, and Halliburton, if Halliburton can become like a rookie of the year type of player. Moving on to the 8th pick, which is Skylar's team. That includes Lillard, Tatum, Butler, Morant, Oubre, Harris, LaMelo Ball, Wiggins, Smart, Ibaka, Lopez, Wiseman, the rookie Denny from Washington, and Dillon Brooks. I think his best pick was Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart is going to have a lot more playing time this year behind Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Now that Hayward's off the team, I do think that could have been a nice sleeper for Skylar's team. Let's see. I also like the James Wiseman pick in the 12th round in a league where you can only have 3 centers. That could be another sleeper. That could be like an easy 12 12, 10, 2 guy. Moving on to his questionable pick, which is LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball in the 7th round, 2, 4, 6, yeah, his 7th round. I'm not sold on Ball. I don't like any of the balls. I think they're all highly overrated because of his father, personally. But it is what it is. If he believes, that's good for him. But we're going to see what happens with LaMelo Ball. I just believe it's a questionable pick because he's not starting to begin the year. And if Charlotte surprises us and they actually do win and are playoff bound, or at least in contention, I don't think LaMelo Ball will be starting at any point in the season. Now, moving on to Skylar's team's strengths, they include blocks, which he's second in turnovers. Blocks he's third in. Turnovers he's second in. 3-pointers, which he's second in, and free throws, which he's fourth in. And he's above 80%, so even though he's fourth, 80%, that's pretty good for free throws. And now I also think another one of his strengths overall is his top 6 players blend so nicely together. I'm very jealous. I really like how well they blended in. You have Dame, you have Tatum for your power forward, you have Jimmy Butler at the 3, Ja Morant and Oubre. I think that was a strong. Oh, and Tobias Harris. Now I know there's technically three small forwards here, and I know I kind of slammed Jose's team a little bit because of the small forward deal. But the thing with this team is the blend is there. The blend is really strong together, and you have Tatum and Lillard to carry the rest. And even Ja Morant. Ja Morant can be easily a top 20 player, and he got him 33rd overall this year. So I like that. And also Andrew Wiggins, another small forward. So he did a lot of what I bashed Jose for, but I believe in these players a little bit more given the team around them. So moving on to his weaknesses, which include field goal percentage, which he is 9th in. He's almost as poor as my team. And assist, where he's ranked 8th. And I'm kind of surprised the assist is on here because taking a point guard in Lillard in the first round, you kind of want to build around those assists, especially since they're such a scarcity. But maybe it was just the way the draft felt to him, and maybe he just felt like there is significant value in other picks. Because Lillard and Morant, I don't know. I just feel like those assists should have been higher. I will say also for his team weaknesses, he has very weak center play. Brook Lopez is his #1 center, and he got him in the 11th round. Technically, Ibaka's considered a center, and then you have Wiseman, so maybe he's banking on Wiseman being the breakout rookie of the year. I don't know, but he needs Wiseman to break out, and if Wiseman breaks out, it's going to be a scary team because looking at the first 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 of his first 9 draft picks, everyone but LaMelo Ball are going to that's a scary first half of the draft. And if he just hits on one of these centers and he comes up big with one of these centers, we're looking at a team that I consider heading into a season in the second tier. He could easily be a favorite heading into the playoffs if he does get a center that plays well and like Wiseman can, like a breakout center. Now, I think his rival team is going to be Rick's team. I think those two are going to be matched up very well. And it's kind of funny now that I looked at it, I didn't notice this. So Rick was picked 3rd and Skylar was picked 8th. They're exact opposites. So they were exact opposites in the draft. Just like Adam and Sieber are rivals, the first pick and the last pick. It's kind of in the same way, 8th pick and the 3rd pick. So they had completely different players to pick from in their points in the draft. So moving on to the cornerstones, they include Dame, Tatum, Butler, Wiggins, Ibaka, Wiseman. Depending on how, I wouldn't consider Ja Morant a cornerstone because he doesn't give enough in the threes and just the assist column. I want to say he's going to score a lot of points, and if he does, if he gets like a close to 2 threes, then he would definitely be a cornerstone. But at this point, I need to see it before I would consider him a cornerstone for this team. I would also probably include Marcus Smart. I think I missed him. All right, so moving on to the 9th pick, which is my team. My draft consisted of Trey, Booker, Nurkic, D'Angelo Russell, Levine, Porzingis, Brown, Jackson, Cousins, Cousins, Markkanen, Hayes, Garland, Beasley, and Carter. Now, I asked my buddy Rick to give me my best pick and my questionable pick, so I'm going off of what he said. And my best pick to him was D'Angelo Russell, and he also said Nurkic. Now, I could probably go talk a little bit more about Nurkic, because I do feel like it was a good pick. I went Nurkic over Vukovic because I saw Bam was gone, and I saw Ayton was gone. So I felt like he was the next available center, and my goal was to get Vuk coming around to the fourth round, but he was taken by Steeper in between my picks. So I decided to go D'Angelo Russell to further complement Trae Young and Devin Booker. Now, he believes my questionable pick is the 92nd second overall pick, Lauri Markkanen, and it's understandable, as Markkanen, my 10th overall pick, my 10th round pick, had a really bad year last year. Now, granted, it was under a different coach and different play style, different scheme, but it was almost like he checked out last year. Now, is he going to check back in this year? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I'm personally high on him, but I do understand the caution for concern. He had a very poor year after being drafted in the fourth round last year. So I'm hoping for a bounce back season, but if it doesn't happen, well, he was selected in the 10th round for a reason. So moving on to my team strengths. They include free throw percentage, three-pointers, and points. By drafting, excuse me. I don't know what goes on. I only ever have to do that when I'm doing these videos, guys, I swear. So anyway, going into my team strengths, I felt like I wanted to blend Trae Young in his strengths, which are points, threes, and free throw percentage. I thought I did a better job with the assist. I didn't, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I do feel like I did very well with the complementing Trae Young's strengths, as I'm second in free throw percentage by almost a full percent. Now, the number one free throw percent guy, I forget who it is, I think it's Best, has an 84 overall percent, which is so crazy. So, but I'm 81. There's two in the 80s, and everyone else is around 78, 77%. So, my 81% is very high. I should be winning that a lot of weeks. My three-pointers made, ranked number one, and number two is at like 27.2 or something like that. Maybe it's 27.4 or 27.8. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is I have approximately a 2.5 3-point edge on second place, and after that, it's pretty much a landslide where I should be able to dominate that category. I personally just love three-point shots, so I am very happy with being able to build around them this year because I don't get to do it every year. And my last category strength is points, where I am ranked second. Now, first place, I think it's Mike's team. It has 278.8 points, so I'm right there with him. And after that, there's a team in third place at like 263, which is 12 points off. So it's just, I feel like I'm going to clobber the competition in that category every week. So I do feel like I'm very strong in three categories, but I do have to boost up those assists and maybe those blocks, which is kind of odd, right, guys? Trying to boost up assists or blocks, it's like one or the other, because actually, I might even be able to do steals, even though I'm ranked 7th, because I do know, I'll get into in a minute, steals is going to be a very competitive category, and even though I'm ranked 7th, a bunch of us are very close into that. So scratch what I said about this assist or blocks. I do believe I can boost up assists and steals if I can make a trade for a guard or pick one up off waivers at some point during the season. Now, my team weaknesses are, no surprise, turnovers, as I have Trae Young, so I really just punted turnovers right off the bat. Him and Booker, just goodbye turnovers. And Russell, like all three of them are top 10 in the league. I'm not beating anyone in turnovers, not a chance. And I'm also basically punting field goal percentage. I wasn't trying to as much as I did. It's just the way the draft fell to me. I didn't want to go so guard heavy with Young, Booker, Russell, and Levine in my top five, but it's just the way the draft fell to me. I took the value picks, and I will say I was hoping to get a big in either Vukovic or John Collins at 32 or 49 overall. It just didn't happen. It didn't pan out that way. It is what it is. My guards are very strong. I'm happy with that. And another thing I do want to say about my team weaknesses is I took a lot of chances on big men. A lot of cause for concern in terms of injuries, as Porzingis and Jackson are by 1 and 2 power forwards, and they're starting the season on my IR. They're probably going to miss the first 2 to 4 weeks each. And I also have DeMarcus Cousins, who just came hasn't played in a couple years, and he's been hurt. It's been one thing after another. So a lot of things have to go my way if my bigs are gonna play this year. My rival team is best team. I do believe he is the best team, and I do think we built our teams the same way. We were both strong in the same categories. We're both pretty weak in the same categories, and we're pretty much evened out. I know my defensive categories are better than his, which make it that's where I'm looking at the edge right now. Things are going to change. I play him in the 4th week of the season, so things are very much going to change at that point. And I'm also not going to have Porzingis or Jackson for that matchup. I don't believe. So my cornerstones consist of Trey, Booker, Russell, Levine, Cousins, and Malik Beasley, who kind of just fell to me in that 13th round. I was happy about that. I may even be able to throw in Mark Cannon depending on if he shows up this year. All right, moving on to the 10th pick, which is the last pick of our draft, Seaver's team. It goes as follows: Durant, Towns, DeRozan, Vukovic, Larry, Robinson, Oladipo, Hield, Rubio, Conley, Barrett, Edwards, Hardaway, and Saric. Now, I do think his best pick was the player I didn't expect to fall like he did in Karl Anthony Towns. That was just crazy to me. I'm just thinking about it. It was crazy. He's unlike any other center in the game, and he kind of rivals Anthony Davis for the best fantasy big man in fantasy basketball heading into the season. So him going that late in the draft just boggles my mind. So I do think Seeper's questionable pick of the draft had to have been DeRozan. I think there are better options that could have blended Durant and Towns' strengths better, because Durant does everything well, and Towns does. He's for a center. He's solid in He's solid in rebounds. Gets you a lot of points. Gets you a sneaky amount of assists, but shoots a lot of threes. So I would have liked to have seen him actually go after like a D'Angelo Russell instead of DeRozan, or someone like that to really blend in with his first 2 picks. But he went to DeRozan, and for me, I think he's overrated at 30. I think it was actually, I think he was ranked a little bit lower too, like closer to 40. So I unfortunately think that is the questionable pick of Seeper's draft, and it's not looking good. I unfortunately want to mention a second possible questionable pick and that's his 6th round pick, Mitchell Robinson. I was looking at the stats in the first preseason game. Robinson didn't start, and he didn't play all that much. Obi Toppin played more than him, and I forget who else started, but it's not looking good for Robinson with Thibodeau as the new head coach. At least not in one preseason game. We'll see what happens once the regular season starts. Now, Seaver's team is, his team strengths include both percentages, turnovers, and assists. And he's strong at the center position. Now, I made this before the games last night, but I originally put He's strong at the center position with Towns and Vukovic, with Robinson being the third center. I thought that was very good for his first six. Unfortunately, I think at this point Mitchell Robinson may be on the waiver wire before we know it. But season's very, very, very young. So young that it hasn't even started yet. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to team weaknesses. They include rebounds and points. Now he's 8th in rebounds, 7th in points. He'll be able to compete against some teams in those categories, but most of the time he's gonna lose in those categories. But going back to the strength, so he's very good in both percentage points. He's actually very strong in field goal percentage at over 50%, and very strong in free throw percentage at over 80%. That's hard to do. 50% and 80%, that's really good. That means you've complemented. Yeah, that I would imagine that it means that you complemented KD very well. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case here. I do think the projections are just that they're projections. Looking at the team, I do think the projection stats here are misleading, as I do not think Sieper has a very strong team. And going back to his weaknesses, the thing that stood out to me was he never seemed to support Karl Anthony Towns' strengths, and that being a lot of points, a lot of rebounds, and a lot of threes on good percentages. He could have got someone like Chris Paul who could have done that. He could have gotten other players who could have suited himself much better. And I also want to say in terms of weaknesses, another one of his weaknesses, which is probably his biggest weakness, is his lack of point guards. His first point guard is Ricky Rubio in the 9th round. So he went Rubio and Mike Conley, two very questionable point guards, especially at your 1 and 2. I mean, if it was the second and third point guard, maybe, but for your top 2 point guards, that's a kick in the shin right there. And that's why, going back to the questionable pick, DeMar DeRozan, I think that pick. Oh, I'm sorry, he has Kyle Lowry. So I guess it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I'm just a non-believer in his point guard play regardless. Lowry's just another year older. Same thing goes for Conley. Same thing goes for Rubio. And Rubio's been traded, so I think he's back with the Timberwolves now. And there's no telling what kind of role he's going to have. People are projecting him to start, but we will see. We'll see how that plays out. Mike Conley, I think he's on Utah, but he's just getting older. Donovan Mitchell is going to take the reins soon, and it's probably going to happen this year. And Kyle Lowry, just they signed Van Fleet to a big time contract, and I do think he's going to take over Lowry's position sooner or later. It could very well be sooner. Who knows? All right, so moving on to his rival team. Sieper's rival team is the first overall pick, Adam's team. So it's kind of funny because they are complete opposites. And I do think they will be able to compete against one another, as they're projected to be strong in each category. Like, they're both going to be strong in the same categories and weak in the same categories. And finally, Sieper's cornerstones include KD, Karl Anthony Towns, Vukovic, and at the time I did put Mitchell Robinson, but at this point I'm not so certain. RJ Barrett, and Anthony Edwards. All right, so the overall analysis of MyLeague and its draft is, ironically enough, I feel, so before I keep reading, the overall analysis also includes what the projections are telling us about each team. So ironically enough, I feel like the two teams with the lowest roto scores are two of the weaker teams, which were Adams and Sieper's teams. And two of the teams with the highest roto scores are two of the best teams, which I believe was Mark's and Best teams. Now, I also have some side notes to go over, so I'm going to be going over each category. Field goal percentage. Sieper is the clear-cut favorite in this category, while Skylar and I are by far the worst. The difference between the 2nd and 8th ranked teams is only 1.5%. So field goal percentage will be a big time battle for most teams every week. In free throw percentage, there are several tiers in this category, as best team leads the way in a landslide. He's at 84%, which is crazy. And so I'm in the next tier at about 81%, but included in this tier would be Steeper, Rick, and Skyler. Now I hold about 1% over Steeper and Skyler. But I know Rick is under 80%, so he's closer to that 1.5 point. But most of the weeks, I feel like I'm going to be strong in free throw percentage. But so those are the top 5 teams in free throw percentage. Now, Mike, Mark, Jason ran out the next tier with respectable averages, so they could easily get upsets. And last but not least, unsurprisingly, Adam, and surprisingly, after drafting Karl-Anthony Towns and KD, oh wait, no, excuse me, scratch that. Let me reread this. Unsurprisingly, Adam, and surprisingly, Jose, who drafted LeBron first overall, but drafted a bunch of small forwards, so it shouldn't have been this bad. But those are the 2 teams that are projected way down on the list and are unlikely to compete against anybody in the category except against one another. Heading into the three-point makes category, my team holds the top spot here by 1.5 threes, while, oh, maybe it's only 1.5. I thought it was 2.5. While best is second, and best has a 1.5 lead over third. So after third place, Adam and Skylar are even in this category, while the difference between the teams ranked 5 to 9 have a 2.7 point differential, while this cat appears to be Mike's weakness. The next category, which is rebounds, Adam, Mike, and Jose's teams lead the pack here, while teams ranked 4 to 8 only share an 8 rebound difference, which isn't that much considering how many people will get rebounds and how many rebound totals there are throughout the any given week. Best and Skylar teams have this cat as their weaknesses this year. Heading into our assist category, Jason's team is by far the best in this category. The difference between the second highest ranked team and the 7th ranked high team is only 4.4 assists. So overall, that's about 12 to 15 assists, maybe a little slightly more per week, which you can make that up through waivers and whatnot. So there's going to be, this is going to be a very competitive category for a lot of teams every week. Mike and Mark's teams appear to have just enough to be separated from being labeled weak in this category, albeit but not by too much. So they're in the next rank outside of the 7th, so they're like 8th and 9th, and then someone's ranked really far down there. I don't even put them on the list, I guess. So moving on to steals, Adam and Rick lead the way in this category as they have the same amount of same amount of steals in terms of projections. This category should be highly competitive as the difference between 3rd and 10th is only 1.1. So on a given week between that's going to equate to like maybe, I want to say, I don't know, but it's not going to be a lot. 1.1 is a small differential in assists, or excuse me, in steals. So this appears to be the most competitive category throughout our entire league. And people are going to use waivers solely just to pick up someone who gets a lot of steals. All right, moving on to blocks. Mark has the edge in this category as he's projected at 2 blocks more than anyone else. That's pretty damn good. The difference between 2nd highest, which is Rick's team, and the 5th highest, which is my team, is only half a block. So there's going to be a lot of competition in this category between 2 and 5. A significant dropout then takes place between the 6th highest, as Seeper is almost a full block behind my team's projected block total. And the difference between Seeper's team at 6 and the 9th ranked team is 0.7 blocks. So Best will bring up the rear in this category, as it appears as this category is his worst category. Moving on to turnovers, Mark leads the way in this category with the lowest category total but the difference between Mark's team and the fifth best team, which is best, is only 2.1 turnovers. So the top half of the league should be competing against one another in this category every week. Adam and I appeared to be long shots to ever win this category, as we are significantly up there, especially my team. While the rest of the team, whoever ranks 6, 7, and 8, they should be able to compete against each other in a second-rated tier. The last category is points, and Mike holds a small edge over my team in points. He has like 278 points, 0.3 points, and I'm evened out at 275 points. Now the difference between my team at second overall and the third overall team, it varies by almost 12 points. So no one's going to be touching my team or Mike's team in points, or it's going to be very, very rarely that it happens. Almost the same difference is being held between the third projected third team, which is best team, by the way, and the sixth place team, which is Mark's team. So that's almost 12 points between 3 and 6. So some teams will be able to fight in the third tier. There's only a 7-point difference between the sixth and eighth, while the ninth overall team, which is Jason's, and 10th, which is Jose's, will find a tough time competing in this category. All right, so my overall analysis with the fantasy owners with the best draft include Best, who had the 5th overall pick, Mark, who had the 4th overall pick, and my team, who had the 9th overall pick. And I do want to say, I did ask people in my league what they thought of my draft, and a lot of people said it was scary, it was nasty, and I asked people on Facebook about it, and I'm getting crickets because no one can no one's critiquing it on Facebook, which means it's probably a solid team. So I'm very happy with that. But I do think I have work ahead, as I think Mark and Best are going to be very competitive, and I do think the second tier would include Mike's team and Skylar's team, and I do think that would be the top half of the league. All right, guys, don't forget to make sure you like this video and to subscribe to my channel for more fantasy basketball content all season long. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be posting stuff. Hopefully a lot of things that are going to help you compete in your fantasy leagues and help you win. All right, guys, and that is all. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one.